to Q-ZAR.
Now we've gone over a lot of stuff. Now this is, like I said, this is for advanced people. Okay, this isn't something I want you to try to learn in the first couple times you play. This is very advanced stuff. Now, what I'm going to try to teach you right now is what I call body manipulation. All right, this is basically nice and easy ways to help you block certain shots. All right. Now, certain things, like I said, the first thing I showed you was the shoulder movement. You know, experiment with the way that shoulder moves forward when you're blocking. Really make sure that you're really learning how that pack is moving with you. The best way to do this is get in a mirror. Look in the mirror, see what your cover looks like. Is the side of your face really showing? If it is, learn to move those handles outside more, rotate them. Make sure you're not creating a hole right here. All right? Now, a lot of people have a problem with using their environment. A lot of times they end up just going to what they're most comfortable with, which is just shooting and blocking, shooting and blocking, shooting and blocking. All right? Please understand, if you really want to be the best player in the world, you must learn to use your environment. Okay? Not only that, you're going to have to learn how to manipulate people. All right? There are going to be a lot of personalities you're going to play with, and when you're playing one-on-one and two-on-twos especially. All right? But beating down on somebody is very different than beating up on somebody. Okay? When you're beating down on somebody, it means you're actually just you're beating them up from the inside out. You're understanding who they are as a person and beating up on them by that way, using their own personality to get inside of their head to trick them and beat them. All right? Now, one way I do this by is, unfortunately, a lot of people in the world have some kind of weird fear towards me. They have a block towards me. Don't know what it is, but when they come up to me, they think they're so flustered in their own head that they don't do anything at all. They tend to let me dictate what goes down. That's very important. That's because I've gotten under people's heads and skin. Now, there's going to be a lot of people in the world who say that that's not true. But I see into your eyes. I know what you're thinking when you're playing me. And you can tell me all you want, you're not afraid of me, but I know you are. So, how do I do this? I do this by simple. If a person tends to be more defensive, you have to what I call controlled aggression. What controlled aggression truly is I dictate where the action is going to do by being aggressive. Now, a lot of times when I'm being aggressive, understand this. There's something called the reflex is a very powerful thing. Okay, I never want them to take the reflex at me. I want to take the reflex at them. So when you're understand when you're using aggression, you don't need to take the first shot. In fact, I hardly recommend ever taking a first shot when you're being aggressive at somebody. Let them take the first shot. Let them make the mistake. Okay? You can be an aggressive person and still be the defensive player at all times. Now, how do I do this? Hey, like I said, you don't need to come out shooting at them. Just come out and block at them. Let them just block at them. Let them open up and make their mistake. But while you're doing this, you are moving yourself into a position where you want to play. You're playing the same exact way as if they were down, but they're up. Now, if they do tag you, you now have a reflex. And remember, the reflex is twice as powerful as a regular shot. All right? So, when you're playing at somebody, when you're being aggressive, don't just go out and shoot at them and then try to block their shot, because now you're at a disadvantage. You're playing in where they want to play. They're using the environment that they like to use. You want to make sure that you are playing in your environment. All right? Now, you have defense. That's how to be a defensive player. An aggressive player, understand, all you need to do is simply back up. Back up. Always have a place. If you know they're aggressive, move into a position where you know they're going to be right on top of you. Then back up into the position that you want to end up in. Don't start in the position you want to end up in. Back up into it. So if I know I'm playing an aggressive player, all I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my back on them and lead them to where I want to play. Then when we're both coming up, I turn around, play them, stop them where they're at. Then I move back into the position that I shoot them, and then move back into the position that I want to play them in. All right? A lot of people just get nervous though and end up playing in a position. The aggressive person flusters them, and they get all flustered, and then they let the person who's aggressive just run around them. No, you can be defensive and still be aggressive at the same time. You have to dictate where that goes down. Now, there's what I call body manipulation. All right? Understand, when somebody's in close combat, you're going to need to do a little bit more things in order to block somebody because they're so close to you. Now, one of the most powerful things, what we call is, of course, the Ronald McDonald. Was what we call is because you just think about putting your knee actually to the ground and twisting your body. When you do this, it's because the person is going for your back when they're really close to you, right? So what you're doing is, you're in your cover, you're dropping your knee down, turning your hips towards your opponent, using your elbow to face at your opponent, going down and blocking them while turning your back. And I'm saying, rotate your body. When you're in close combat, sometimes you have to. By using your knee and your hips, you can take away your back shot a lot easier along with your shoulder. Your right shoulder, your hip, and your knee control your back. Remember that. When you're playing later on, those are the three things you want to concentrate in order to block your back. It's not about rotation unless somebody is right on top of you. I can do this movement right here, and that's all I need to do to block a back tap. That's it. Doesn't need to be some extravagant move unless they're right here. All right? Learn to just do little movements. Sucking in your right abdomen also too makes it a little bit easier to hold your cover in tight. What this does is this creates less to bounce off of, and it makes it a little bit wider in your cover, like this. My cover is a little bit wider now because I'm sucking in on my abdomen, and I'm really pushing against this. Okay, it's another thing you can do. Also, what I mean by body manipulation is actually manipulating the other person's body that you're playing. Understand, when somebody's down, you have the most powerful thing in the game, your phaser. You don't even need to shoot at somebody in order for to move them. Just point your phaser at where you want them to move. All right? Think about it. If you want to move them left, point your phaser to the right. All right? If you want to move them right, point your phaser to the left. All right? So for instance, if I want to move the player I'm playing to my right, all I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot my phaser toward their front pack. Now, what are they going to naturally do? Their brain thinks they're shooting my front. They're going to move this way in order to block, moving them to the right side of where I want them to be. All right? I'm also, if I want to move them left, I just simply I don't shoot, I just put the phaser out. And you'll simply move them to the left. All right? It's simple. You're controlling your opponent. You're basically going with a wand, going, okay, move there. All right, move there. All right, so I want you to move back. So if you want them to move back, just keep moving towards them like this, very, very slowly, stalking them, making them move a little bit farther back to try to block you. And just keep doing that until you move them in a position that you want them to be in. And once they get there, then you think about, okay, now where do I want to end up? All right? That is what I mean by body manipulation. That is how I control and beat most people one-on-one. I control, I dictate where the play is going to be. That is what you want to do in the very end. All right? Now, this is very hard sometimes because people with aggressive personalities have a hard time being defensive, and people with defensive personalities have a hard time being aggressive. Understand, to be a good Q-ZAR player, you need to have both. All right? You need to learn. Sometimes you need to learn to be aggressive. Sometimes you need to learn to be more defensive. All right? And understand, you don't want to trade. You want to beat your opponent. Okay? It is better to get to that advantageous spot and let your opponent get up than it is for you to shoot them and just trade with them in the open. You just lost your advantage. You had them down. Now you're both down. You lost your advantage. Why would you give them a free tack? You want to beat them. You're using your uptime to give yourself an advantage. That's what the most important key is. All right? Learn to manipulate your opponent, whether it's his personality or whether it's his actual body. All right? When it comes to outthinking your opponent, now sometimes you're going to play that opponent, I'm sorry, who's just smarter than you are, who thinks quicker than you are. Understand this. This is a very important aspect to understand. Okay? If you know the person's better than you, all right, make sure that you're thinking clearly. All right? Don't think. Make your move and go with it. All right? If you overthink, you're just going to get beat worse. In fact, a lot of times it's better for you to react instead of thinking, right? If you find yourself thinking too much, turn your brain off and just go with what your natural body says. Then think about what you did and what the reaction was, and learn that way. That didn't work. I should try something different next time, all right? Now, next thing I'm going to be going over is more advanced stuff, but what I want you to start thinking about is I want you to really start taking in what I'm saying to you. Don't just keep going from video to video, but really stop and think, do I really do that? Do I really move my opponent? Do I really control where my opponent goes? Or does my opponent really control me most of the time?